Thank you. Thank you. Hey, look, another Skarner ban. I wonder.
The win rate remains undefined, and I believe the bans were pretty much the same as both games so far. Whoa.
Pretty much. Oh.
Yone first pick.
That's a slam, if I've ever seen one. So, Yone, B1. Let's see how Ultra Prime decide to follow that one up, because there is no rel available, right? There is no, and that's kind of the premier setup tool for this Yone in terms of the mid-game ultimates, as they already picked it in game 1. So, JDG gonna have a lot of freedom to kind of pick apart any of the S-tier picks that they feel like are super powerful inside of the meta. And Bessa's going to be one of them, so Arla likely to be piloting that, and I do expect this will end up being a jungle pick for Shun, and it will be. It's going to be that Zyra, so early, fast clear. You know you're probably going to be dealing with an AP jungler just because of the Yone slam. Looks like the Lilia, just off that hover, right? It's probably the best AP jungler to go with Yone. Sleep into, you know, a easy setup, Fate sealed. It's just very tried. It's very tested. And that Ultra Prime, plenty of options here. Are they going to go for an AD top laner like the Renekton? Super reliable on blind, and even in, you know, lane swap situations, can hold his own, and that's going to be the case. Will forego the AD or the support matchups for now.
All right, Jamada, tell me what are the lucky lottery numbers I should be looking out for next? You're predicting everything so far in the draft. Like, I need to know, man. What's the sauce for today?
No, there's no sauce. It's just sometimes things are a little bit too telegraphed. This wouldn't be telegraphed, though. Maokai would be pretty odd. Obviously, you never talk about hovers, but it does get locked in. So, seems like that's going to be the answer, I assume, to Renekton. So, it could just be Ambessa mid here, our scout, as the answer. Mind you, of course, Ambessa picked when Yone was picked, and that was the only information that JDG had. So, I'm expecting this to be an AD... Well, obviously, Ambessa's an AD champ, but, you know, the AD mid answer to this AD mid of Ultra Prime, because they've already got that AP jungler locked in too.
Sure. And even though like Maokai could be flexed around to support or jungle if you wanted to get creative and put Zyra in the bot lane, it doesn't really make sense considering the order of operations we just, you know, witnessed from the draft phase. You see Renekton slammed, and then JDG, you know, probably naturally just want to get their top laner counterpick of choice out the way before things get banned, and now it just gives them more room to start limiting that bot lane pool from both Wako and Paze respectively, which is already happening. As you called out, Misfortune gone, Caitlyn, a choice that they have taken away from Paze, and now Jhin bites the dust as well. So this leaves things like Corki. Oh, no, Corki got banned already.
Corki
Ashe was in the first round. And then, of course, there can't be any Varus or Kalista, since Former was used in the first game, and Kalista was also banned in the first round. So, what does this leave up here?
I mean, the kind of B tier hype carries, I suppose. Things like Jinx, things like Sivir, Zeri, you mentioned Corki obviously being banned. Those are the ones that come to mind. You know, up front. Maybe we get like some weird Twitch, action as well. We saw some Twitch Lulu, which I think, even though it didn't end up winning, that was TT versus LNG. It was very, very threatening, but honestly, Jinx, not too bad. I'm surprised we also maybe don't get a Xayah here out of Paze, all things considered, right? It's very easy to self-peel against what's up on the table for Ultra Prime, but for now, happy to just lock in that Jinx, and it does give Missing the opportunity now to see the bottom lane, and maybe this ends up being that Maokai flex, right? That we were potentially alluding to, if JDG feel like the Maokai will pay off more dividends in that support role in the hands of Missing.
I will say, I would be down for a Maokai support, but also I think it would be nice to pair something like a Thresh or a Tahm Kench with this Jinx to give it a little bit of extra safety if things get really hairy, considering all of the engage tools that Ultra Prime have at their disposal, especially now with the addition of Rakan into the lineup and the fact that they have a Xayah for themselves. It pretty, as you said, got to be careful on the hovers before it officially locks in, but they're going to confirm the Lovers duo bot lane. This makes it already difficult for JDG to try and lock down the Xayah in particular, but there's so many threats on this composition from Ultra Prime. I think JDG are totally fine playing front to back and using the power of their massive disengage tools with Zyra and Maokai already locked in, the Nautilus, I'm going to be honest here, Jamada, I'm a little surprised. That does not offer nearly as much safety for Jinx, and so it puts it more on FaZe's shoulders to peel for himself.
Yeah, you know, I was kind of sat here considering what options JDG had in terms of, you know, self-built, and I'm kind of surprised we don't get a Renata here. I think that would have made a lot of sense just because of how short-ranged Ultra Prime is generally, and it also then offers you a lot of protections in many different ways, right? Makes dives significantly harder because of the W, so if a lane swap does end up unfolding here, there's that. There's the obvious mid-game power as well, and if it's a 2v2, then just the plain laning power. So very interesting to see that the Nautilus is the choice of support here for missing, just because it feels like this composition, realistically, it's never really wants to engage, right? It never kind of wants to go in. But it doesn't mean Nautilus can't be used in an appealing way. It's just that he's probably not the best in class for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the tools that you have at the disposal are relatively slow and not instantaneous. You know, even your guaranteed route with the passive enhanced auto attack, it's kind of slow. You know, Nautilus has that big long wind up to really get someone CC'd and locked down if they try to engage onto the Jinx. Otherwise, it's the most immediate thing you can do is a point blank ultimate or, you know, immediate hook as soon as someone engages. So, but I think the only reason why they would go for a Nautilus is because they want to have some guaranteed point and click outside of the Maokai for you know, target picks. And if there's ways of going forward with this composition, then that way when you are ahead and you want to, you know, force your lead and leverage that snowball even further, you don't have to wait for the opposition to walk into you. You can force the fight. Oh my god, level 1 already! Oh. Hang on, Jamada. Hold on to your butts right now. I'm on the edge of my seat as Saber gets locked up, tries to flash away. The flash from Scout, and it's not enough from FaZe. One rocket is not enough for the dream to be alive, for that first feat of strength to be accomplished by either team. Saber lives alive and gets to go home.
I love how, of course, you know, production and chat, they've got to pop up that Game 2 graphic for the sake of the VOD. And already, a couple of flashes, 4 flashes already blown. And Saber almost drops for first blood. I think we could be in for a little bit of cinema for Game 2.
I'm so down.
I'm very ready. Hopefully, though, it's a bit more competitive than Game number 1. Because JDG, again, lane swap, fantastic setup. Rotations were very quick. Ultra Prime could not keep up. And those rotations, you know, eventually boiled over and made it very, very hard for Ultra Prime to answer, as this is going to be a very explosive mid lane matchup. When I think about it, I'm Bessa Yone, 2 melee champions with a lot of mobility under their belt. And a lot of damage even early on offer too.
Definitely a bummer for both Scout and FaZe, who invested both of their flashes after Saber already committed his to try and guarantee the kill, and it didn't even happen. I'm assuming it was the quick heal from RosieLove that kept Saber alive without getting a chance to look back at the replay. But, you know, now there's an opportunity for Ultra Prime if they want to make a play on the FaZe within the first few minutes of the game. This is an AD carry that does not have a way to dodge out of a grand entrance or a blade caller. That would just have to be FaZe relying on quick time cleanse to get out of harm's way.
Yeah, now, fortunately for FaZe and JDG as a whole, Junhao, he's actually pathing topside, so
RIP.
Doesn't have to worry about that one. As frankly, by the time that Junhao, you know, with the jungle, maybe top lane play, though Arla's full health and playing Maokai, does scuttle crap. By the time he makes it back to bot side, FaZe's flash is going to be up. So
yeah,
I don't even think that play is going to unfold, unfortunately, as you look at the small difference between FaZe and Missing's flash times. They flash at the same time level 1. So FaZe has Cosmic Insight. Wako did not have Cosmic Insight.
No, he did not. And he hooked RosieLove out of the dash. Oh, that is so tragic for Ultra Prime. But for JDG, they're up on the up again with first blood.
Yes, they are. It's kind of a nothing burger as well for JDG in terms of what they put into that play to get out of it, right? So Paze gets that first blood, and he's going to get a plate. Look at the XP difference as well, as Wako is going to miss all of that wave too. So that is a far, far bigger first blood than it actually looks like. That is going to suck for the next couple of minutes, especially if this is a big base here for Paze, and it kind of is. It's Berserker Greaves. Being able to space out Xayah and Rakan, you get all of the movement speed together when they cast, or when Xayah casts W, is a very, very big deal. I'm sure Paze understands that very intimately, though as I say it, the rotation is coming out for top side bit of action here. So Arla's likely going to either reset or set up this top gank, and then TP down to that stacked wave on the bottom side as they look for Jung.
JDG are so proactive. It just seems so easy. Ala's able to set up that plate and give a little bit of extra damage for Paze. Now Ala flashes in just to secure the kill with the ignite as Missing hits it. But Jung is totally fine. Maybe a little ambitious from Ala, but I guess he had to do it in order to guarantee a little bit of that extra damage to threaten. And it does force Jung out of this lane for now. But he will be TPing back to soak up the wave.
Yeah, he's going to make it down to that bottom side wave, so he's pretty comfortable with this. Jung's also going to teleport back and, you know, find most of that wave up there as well. At the end of the day, I still think this is going to end up being fairly beneficial for JDG to Paze and Missing, though it does give Wako and RosieLove almost 2 whole plates just off that one push, so maybe not as lucrative as JDG were hoping the total transaction of that play. But still very much good, as now RosieLove making his way up to the top side and just wants to cover Jung a little bit here. But also, those grubs spawning in 30 seconds time, you want to have your support around if you're looking for the test.
Doesn't seem like Paze or Missing are in that much danger here. Both of their flashes are back up and available. So even if Ultra Prime were really trying to sync up with Junhao and force a play, Junhao's not level 6 yet, so he doesn't have any hard crowd control available yet. And Jung, no flash. Very hard to reliably set up that engage, so they're at the whims of getting pushed in by this range bot lane from Paze and Missing. Shun makes his way to the top side to get ready for that contest.
Arla's actually up here as well. Junhao is going to get one. Oh, Shun, bit of a miss smite. Junhao, he's not going to be able to. No, he's not going to be able to steal it with the. Just held onto it for a little bit too long. Now top side, breakout here.
They're going to get feisty. Missing is not level 6. Jung is. That forces his flash, and now this Nautilus is completely out of the fight, forced to recall. But he does not go down, so it's nice for JDG as you called out, Shun didn't necessarily have a clean smite on one of the grubs. It was a little early. I guess he was trying to steal away the one that Junhao was focusing on, but thankfully for JDG, they secure the last 2 grubs, and neither team really picks up a overall complete epic monster objective. So JDG still in the lead for overall feats of strength, but Ultra Prime not completely out of that race.
Yeah, not yet. These lane assignments are very interesting. The constant rotations here from JDG, going from game 1 here to game 2 as well. I'm kind of wondering how much stock do JDG putting behind some of these lane bullies, because at its core, as I try and kind of break down the theory of it, that's kind of what the only trend I'm really noticing, right? Because think about it, Paze got that first blood, got all the plates on that bottom side play. You could keep that 2v2 going, like, for longer, just because of how early it happened. The grubs, you don't really need to reset for another wave or 2. Or even then, you could just send Missing up and keep Paze on the bottom side. You'll probably clear out fine in the 2v1. So, very interested to see how JDG continues to evolve these lane assignments, because that's about the only thing I can really track is, hey, you know, Rumble was in game 1, lane bully, Renekton's game 2, lane bully, and you know, we didn't really get to see the 1v1 play out in the early stages between Arla and between Jung in terms of Rumble versus Kasante. Missing feelings of a little bit. But you started to see, you know, Jung was kind of getting the better of Arla in the earliest stages in terms of CS. But that gap closed because of all of these rotations here from JDG.
Yeah. I mean, JDG have played an incredibly proactive game, both game 1 and game 2, and this proactivity is what really gave them such a huge momentum that was almost insurmountable from the side of Ultra Prime. As we take a look back on top side, Ala is fairly low on HP, but it's quite tanky. This tree ain't going down anytime soon. And with the priority that JDG are trying to invest in pushing through this bottom lane, they are giving Shun the space to set up and take this first dragon of the game.
Ala does get that trade back, but that's still a little bit rough, and Junhao's in the area now. Maokai, he's not easy to dive, but this Maokai might be on the easier side of the spectrum for sure. He's going to look for a recall. Junhao should just about see him, and he does. He's going to interrupt it. Sleep
Gets
options
tagged.
there. Do it late.
Jong has already popped the dominance, so he's got to go in now and execute. Flash does not come up in time. The damage is clean. Junhao and Jong, and they take down Ala.
And just more importantly, it's true CC. You know, 40% HP that Ala had left down to 0. Sleep into the empowered stun of the Renekton. Not much you can do about that. And there might not be much you can do about this rotation, but missing. Doesn't have anyone else in tow. That dragon was traded over though by JDG, so it was more of a cross-map proactive play from Ultra Prime. And speaking of a cross-map proactive play from Ultra Prime, they're looking onto Scout.
Yeah, quickness and grand entrance locks down Scout. The fate sealed, not enough to make it so that Scout does not get out alive. Just a quick flash and he is alive. JDG starting to feel the pressure of moves from the side of Ultra Prime, trying to fight back and ensure that JDG are not just completely walking all over them like they did in the first game.
Yeah, getting Scouts flash there, not too bad, as Missing will be spotted out on this ward. And Scout's teleported here, and he's got the Eclipse, so he's got a lot of damage.
Good flash by Jong, sidestepping the root from Shun as well. So Jong evades danger once again. Unfortunately, does have to give up his top turret. However, the rest of Ultra Prime are completely invested on the bottom tier 1. And if they can just get another minion wave pushed in, they should be able to beat them to the punch. Yeah, this is totally Ultra Prime's objective to claim. Nicely done by Ultra Prime to be able to compete for first brick. And now JDG really have to rely on getting the next 2 epic monster objectives to secure for themselves the overall feats of strength.
I mean, this is still kind of an uptrade for JDG. You have to remember, first Tower Blood gold, I think, significantly reduced this patch. It's not really the worst thing in the world when you're getting 5 grubs, right? You got 2 objectives, really, for the price of 1. And I believe, looking at that mid lane tower, that Pei's also got a little bit of time to himself to pick up more gold. So, frankly, whilst it's nice that Ultra Prime get that first brick and it keeps them competitive, the feats of strength overall, still very, very, very big uptrade for JDG. As we've still got to wait now another couple of minutes before we see the next objective, and I think this gives us a little bit of time to revisit a topic that we were talking about in game number 1 surrounding Pei's, actually, so very topical. Orts has reached out and he has given me the rating for that Ziggs game. And if you're curious, he gave it an overall 8 out of 10.
Okay.
So solid performance out of him, and I will say he's given me some footnotes as well. He's good. He knows how to build Ziggs, and he actually consistently had the best Ziggs builds in the LCK last year, so that's good. He complemented the Void Staff early because the base damages that Ziggs has are actually so high that it's pretty broken. But he was so fed he probably could have just gone Death Cap, but going it third was also pretty OP. Oblivion Orb kind of unneeded that game, but frankly, so far ahead. Can doesn't know. That part's my part.
Yeah.
And he also didn't go Biscuits, which a lot of pros apparently still haven't read the patch notes. Don't know that
that doesn't give him mana anymore.
So he just didn't go Biscuits, so very good job from our resident Ziggs entrepreneur.
Hell yeah.
Cast.
Thank you, Dan. Miss you, bro. We got a minute and change before we get our second dragon of the game, as rest of JDG are doing a pretty successful job of bullying Ultra Prime out of that bottom river and using the priority of Pei's in the mid lane, get an extra bit of chip damage. Oh, RosieLove really wants to send it on to Shun. forcing his flash out. RosieLove is a little far, and he doesn't get a chance to battle dance away to safety. And that forces Saber's own fate sealed. Now Ultra Prime are down a bunch of engage tools for this upcoming dragon.
Yeah, and there's no way Ultra Prime are contesting this. I feel like it's going to be really rough. RosieLove is so much of their engage. Saber no ultimate as well. It feels like a death sentence to go and poke your head in here. Though Hayes are missing, they are looking for a reset right now, so maybe the window will be okay, and so actually is Shun. Unsure if maybe there's some crucial items to pick up, a little bit of extra gold sitting in their inventories, but it's a good flash from Shun, and sometimes as a player you're just committed to a play. You know, like you started it, it's got to finish with what the intended goal was. But unfortunately, JDG moved the posts, and no one from Ultra Prime could catch up.
You know, in some of the opening games from Ultra Prime against Wako Gaming just this past week, you know, RosieLove was someone that did receive a lot of praise on the broadcast because his Nico game in particular, finding such creative flanks, gave so much space to Ultra Prime to take over these fights. And I think you can tell that RosieLove is still trying to find those flanks and be creative. And unfortunately, you know, you're playing against a team who has pretty much really locked in, and they're much more synced up than what we saw out of the Demacia Cup performances just a month ago. So I imagine that I don't want RosieLove to stop looking for these flanks, but he's definitely got to be much more careful and aware of where everyone is when he is looking for them in the first place.
So it has to be Rakan very squishy as well. To a Nautilus, it's, hey, you know, you face check a push, Nautilus is ready in there waiting for you. You will probably not get to move. Chances are, before somebody else comes and plays in a bit more CC. So a lot is fairly kind of levied on RosieLove to start some fights, but also, I mean, Junhao as well. Something I do notice with some Lilia players in general is, especially when they've got a Yone, like some big setup tool, right, whether it's Rumble ult, MF ult, sometimes they just don't understand that their job is just to flash in, hit as many people as possible with 1Q and then press R, right?
Yep.
And I do wonder if we're going to see a Lilia symptomatic of that, or you know, resembling that, or a little bit more aggression in general.
You know,
sometimes you can just pick it and be a little bit useless.
Yeah. You know what's a good indicator of whether a Lilia is going to be very passive and just wait for her team to engage, or they're going to be aggressive? Hang on. Holding that point, RosieLove dodges the rocket. That certainly would have been the end of his life, and another death added onto the scoreboard, but just barely slips right on past that rocket.
You know what? I think I know what the answer to your question is.
Oh, yeah?
And it's whether or not they purchased Lucid boots.
I was going to say Seekers, but that also works too.
Okay. Seekers is a good indicator. Teleport's coming down, Herald's going down. So JDG, will they get it, and will there be a fight after the fact?
1400, RosieLove is in. 1100, can Shun secure it? Yes, he does. Jung is on the left side trying to route out the plant lady, but Junhao is in trouble because the rest of JDG have collapsed on the bottom side of the map. Back onto the top side of the map. Jung almost has taken out Shun, gets one more dash in and takes out Plant Lady herself. JDG losing out on the support as well in the trade, but at least for them, they got the Rift Herald, and that does secure the feats of strength.
Yep. Do indeed. I think they had it from that Mountain Dragon, but either way, Herald secured, and they're going to be able to use it probably on the mid lane tower to break that one open if I had to wager a guess. Saber will pick up this tier 1 rather on the top side. A messy fight for JDG, and very split, right? I think the beginning of that fight, the way that RosieLove approached it, kind of sent JDG kind of awry because it was from a multi-angle attack too, as Junhao and Saber look to approach from the bottom side. Let's get a look at it in replay though, as the Herald is just awkward to finish off because of where the eye is. Engage goes onto Shun, but then you can see Missing's going in on 350. Ala has a flank that is followed up on by Scout as well. But then you look at Hayes, and he's just in such an awkward position, so he can't really hit an important target whilst all this is going on. So Wako gets the kite out, Junhao even gets the flash and kite out, and eventually the repositioning favors Ultra Prime on the disengage of JDG. They're able to pick up 2 kills on the retreat.
I really like how you pointed out how just scattered everything was, because when you look at how ideally a composition that has a Zyra set up, you want them to funnel into all of your plans, and it's a lot easier to get that guaranteed burst for the resets on this Jinx to really run through this team. But because that never happened, it doesn't matter that FaZe is, you know, relatively ahead of Wako. He never got rolling, and so a lot of the threat just kind of dissipated in that fight. Now, JDG, for the first time, are behind in gold against Ultra Prime, and a lot of that gold lead has gone back into the pockets of the top side of the map. Both Junhao and John relatively ahead, and we got, it's not Lucidity Boots, Merc Treads, but we do have a Seekers here, Jamada, so I'm expecting the next time Junhao's got that flash button up and available, Q flash on the multiple people, it's gonna be a lot of them going to sleep.
Save me! Terrible sig. Trying to even get the damage on the charge off. A little bit unfortunate, but I do like the point out there of that Seeker's arm guard from Junhao. Now, look, I'm even going to add on top of all of the points you made about Junhao and the potential for Lilia to have a good game here, is that even with the Seekers, I've still seen Lilia's not look that aggressive.
Oh no.
Plays. So, we'll track him with a massive amount of eagerness. He doesn't have flash right now for this fight, as Hextech Dragon is spawning up, and you would expect that Ultra Prime do not want to give this one up for free. They've already given up the first two.
Teleport coming in. Scout arrives to the mid lane. Decent E onto Shun, but good God, Saber just got blown up! And FaZe got the resets rolling, so you do not want to mess with an excited Jinx as FaZe runs back into the river. Dragon control surely on the side of JDG Ultra Prime. I think the best that they can do is just try and jockey for mid control and priority and threaten this tower.
I mean, I don't think they're going to be able to threaten the tower, though, because Dragon's already dead. They just have to rotate out, so...
Dang.
One measly Raptor camp is going to be pretty much all that they can get. Maybe because that Blast Cone's there, you get the Krugs as well. But, yeah, kind of sucks, though. I mean, JDG are resetting. They are not respecting this Atacon timer. Teleport's coming down here for Saber. So JDG are going to rotate over because this Atacon buff does not die. It does not die quickly.
Look
so
where RosieLove is. He's waiting. He's waiting for JDG to enter, and now he's going to try to look for Shun that gets his flash out. So the engage now turns right onto the front line of JDG. Missing could be the first one to fall, but Saber gets burned out once again, and FaZe gets the resets, and he's excited, and he's rolling through every single member of Ultra Prime. Good night. It was a nice attempt to use the Otacon to bait them in, but JDG just played it way better than they expected, and this Otacon is now gifted freely.
I mean, honestly, I don't even hate the idea here from Ultra Prime, but the reaction time of the Shun flash, it just completely breaks apart this engage from Ultra Prime. The pronged attack is thwarted pretty much entirely. Let's get a look at how quickly Saber just dies. Double root. Doesn't have the untargetable ability that Wako has, unfortunately. And as you take a look here, RosieLove, I think off vision. It's just, yeah, Shun flashes, just straight up, just reacts in time, and then rooted up again. Here Saber is, and at that point, FaZe just gets to play the game for free. Scout was already dealing with the Renekton, as was, so JDG. We were talking about how this game is competitive, right? Even though that Dragon fight wasn't really much of a fight before. How Ultra Prime maybe had some ways to play the game, but the Atacon buff on hand, the way that the execution keeps on falling in favor of JDG, it just continues to mount the pressure on top of Ultra Prime right now.
And that gold lead that Ultra Prime briefly had, it's gone. Now swings back over into the hands of JDG. RosieLove once again maybe angling and posturing for an engage. Gets a decent grand entrance on the backside, but Jung has already fallen as Saber. Really great fate sealed, but this is the Otacon GAs that are being taken off the board, so JDG, they don't mind at all. They're going to continue the siege, and Ultra Prime are now down on health bars. It might have been enough to stall the siege, and Junhao not going to pop the Lilting Lullaby.
They have got to nerf this, man. I remove it! Riot, please!
Riot!
Please! Bro.
Oh! You know, I think Scout is okay. that Wako dodged the public execution, because if he didn't, then Scout would have dove far and deep, and that would have been the end of the Otacon GA. But Ultra Prime, they're starting to struggle here, Jamada. I'm not gonna lie. They're trying to hold on desperately, especially Junhao, to this lead that he did have for himself. Still 3-0 on the Lilia. Zhonya's completed, but you know, I'm starting to feel a little bit of that the concern you had. When is Junhao just gonna say, I gotta sack the KDA and just get in there with my Zhonyas and look for the engage for my team?
And this is the thing, he's got to send it, right? Whenever JDG just very briefly stands on top, he's got to go in. So long as he, of course, has the angle, right? It's always about whether or not you have the angle on Lilia. Because he is so strong. I mean, he's kept up with Shun despite being in the, you know, game state and position that his team is in. Again, you know, this composition from JDG, it does kind of want to play front to back. It wants to kind of move as a mini death ball, right? So if you can break this apart with multi-angled flanks, with a big engage from Cilia, things can look positive. But it's just been time and time again JDG reacting to plays that Ultra Prime have tried to set up, and yeah, it's been a very big broken record game, unfortunately, for Ultra Prime, where things just don't work despite the creativity of how they try to approach some of those plays.
Yeah, just goes to show that Flash is insanely broken and needs to be removed from the game. I'm just kidding. I'm not actually advocating for that. But it's one of those times where, like, RosieLove was like, oh my gosh, I almost had this guy, but he has Flash. Or like, oh, if I only had Flash, I can guarantee this engage from happening. And, you know, more times than not, JDG have been, you know, just better on the execution when it came down to the nitty-gritty. Now, an engage on the Scout does get his Flash. That's a summoner spell gone, and the fourth dragon of the game has spawned. This is Hex Tech Soul on the line for JDG. Scout, no Flash, but still has many tools available in his kit to dash and dance around the fight.
He does. Still has that all, like you say. RosieLove, he's looking for a play. It's awkward.
Oh, they find Pays, but public execution from Scout delays the engage and gives Baby Pays enough time to survive. But Wako commits his own Flash to get over the wall and assassinate the other marksman. Big shutdown as Junhao is in the backline with the rest of his comrades as they take out another member from JDG. And that was the moment we were waiting for, Jamada. One moment of brilliance from Ultra Prime to swing this game out of the hands of JDG.
You know what? Just Route 1 football from Ultra Prime. They've tried all of these fancy set plays, try and go for these multi-pro. They just send it down mid. RosieLove straight through the entirety of JDG. It's arguably the most rudimentary engage they've had all game, but it's the one that works, and it should net them Baron on top of all of this. Ala, I don't know how much he's really got in the tank to stop this. It's him and Missing versus 5. There is no damage on the table. This should just be Ultra Prime's Baron to take.
And Saber has rejoined the fight with teleport. Oh no, Super Mega Death Rocket! Oh my god, it got so close, but Junhao secures the Baron. But now it becomes a dance of how many people from Ultra Prime can survive and escape. As Scout joins the fight, they've got Hextech portals, so everyone from JDG is piling on in, but Ultra Prime have seemingly escaped for everyone except Wako. I'm sorry, brother. Someone's got to die, and you're the sacrificial lamb that's left on the slaughtering table. JDG will take at least one, but for Ultra Prime's sake, they deny Hextech Soul, they deny Baron, and the game is now back to even state.
It's at least playable, right? It was starting to approach a bit of an untenable situation. I mean, JDG's composition is still one that, you know, in terms of how it interacts with Ultra Primes, the game is never really over, right? But, again, game state, Hextech Soul, that turns into a Baron kind of easily. Could have got real slippery real fast, but Ultra Prime hold it out firm. Now, I'm so surprised that that engage worked. I'm still thinking about it from Ultra Prime. After all of the shenanigans, all the different ways they've looked at these fights, that's the one that goes through. They stick it.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta overload on the amount of buttons just for one target, you know, just to guarantee, even if it seems like overkill. It's JDG defending the remnants of this tier 1. The Baroned up cannon minion does not do enough to take out the turret outright, but Ultra Prime got another wave on the way, and JDG cannot stay to defend it. Ultra Prime, they finally did a Jamada. They took out the tier 1 in the mid lane. It's not game defining, but damn it, I'm gonna be happy for one thing for Ultra Prime.
Be fortunate. Hey, Pays, you know those chompers don't work on minions. I'm just press for the last game. That's gonna be tier 2 down here as well. Scout can't stop this from happening, so a lot of gold swung into the pockets of Ultra Prime yet again. And when you kind of zoom out, take a breath for a second. We've been very in the moment in this game. That could be huge for Wako, especially if you can finish up that third item, because when you look at the upside, you know, Pay's already sitting at 4, 29 minutes into the game, is a big deal, and it was why it was so crucial that RosieLove got on top of him earlier on, right, at that dragon fight. Pay's has so much damage up front and on offer right now that if he is ever able to free hit any of these fights, it is just, it's kind of just over. I don't know if Ultra Prime can deal with that much DPS for a consistent amount of time right now. So they need to keep their eyes on Pays. They need to keep on tracking his flash time, right? It's going to be back up by the time they probably find another engage onto him. If they can just force it out and then disengage and then look for the play after the fact with their own flashes, more just overload on top of it. And maybe, just maybe, there's ways back into this game for Ultra Prime in terms of continuing to overbear JDG, put themselves in the lead.
Next objectives up on the table. Baron, 2.5 minutes away. Another dragon, I want to say 3 minutes and some change from now. So there's some time between both teams to just trade waves, try and jockey for vision control on the top side of the map, since Baron will be the first one spawning for control. And then around that time, Jamada, I believe everyone will have all their summoner spells back up and again, so everyone should be playing on a relatively even playing field. If Ultra Prime try and do something similar where they all overloaded a bunch of their buttons, hang on. Oh, I thought Saber had lost his flash for some reason. Must have been a visual bug. But as I was saying, if they do it again on Pays, you know, he only has 1 flash and 1 cleanse, and you know, if they all sync it up, that is your one hope in winning these fights.
It is, but now they're overloading into mid JDG a little bit. They're contesting the mid waves as best they can, because they know if they can get vision, they can set up and kind of just keep an eye on RosieLove. That's the important thing, and that's why they're kind of sticking together, trying to track where the support could be right now. As teleports coming through from Saber, and Ultra Prime, they know this dragon is crucial. RosieLove's going to get spotted on vision here, and that's really important for JDG. They need to know where this guy is 24/7. Just to make sure that Pays too much danger. Speaking of danger,
looking for John. Just want to point out I was completely wrong on the dragon timer. I thought it was 3.5 minutes. It just spawned, so
it's up now.
It's up now.
Oh,
my bad. Ooh, good hook. Looks for Junhao. He's gonna pop the Zonias, and he's forced to flash away, so he can't use his ultimate proactively. He's gonna get one lilting lullaby onto Pays, and he takes a quick nap before he cleanses it, and now the jungler from Ultra Prime is gone. Super Mega Death Rocket doesn't get that much damage off of it, but Wako is in so much pressure that he's forced to pop the Featherstorm. John goes for a flash-in, desperate play, and he pops his GA, takes 1 support with him, but he's got to deal with the rest of the squad from JDG, and he's not lasting that much longer. Saber, no, not today. Fate sealed. He sealed his own fate by trying to tango with the one and only Pays, as he just blasts him back to the next century.
Yeah, great flash from Page. Just that minor bit of repositioning there probably saved him. Saber ultimate doesn't actually even go off. We see the animation comically. Still dies. Looks like he has it by the HUD standards. And that will be Hextech Soul going over to JDG. Spoke about 5 minutes ago. If that dragon went over, it would have probably been Baron, and then it would have been game. Well, it looks like that sequence of play is about to happen as we take a look at the replay. And Junhao just playing with fire, gets caught by the zap. Dash interrupted by the dredge line, and he's forced to Zonias, and he comes out of it. Even though Arla doesn't quite get the initial flash W, the root from that ultimate comes in, and Pays able to cleanse away out of that sleep so we can start moving forward and keep up with the rest of JDG as they look for the rundown. Wako's ultimate timed well to ensure he doesn't get rooted up, and the dive forward from Jiang just a little bit too far forward, considering you're doing it for missing, though I'm not sure if you can really get out, considering where Arla was anyway, so 1-for-1 still feels fine. As we come out of replay, people are dying!
Yep, Jamada, and they've already lost 2 on the side of Ultra Prime, and another Lilting Lullaby is all too late as JDG take a quick power nap. They're back up and refreshed, and there's no jungler to contest them for this Baron, so this objective is easily in their hands, and I think JDG are just a couple fights away of finishing out this game.
Yeah, should be indeed. I think Baron, Hextech Soul, it's going to be 2 of Bearing. We're looking at game 3. Ultra Prime, they've done a lot to make this game difficult, especially considering how game number 1 ended up unfolding. This is how this team fight ended up happening, and it was just, yeah, face checks from Ultra Prime. They have to go in to see what's going on if they're out of vision resources, and unfortunately, when the only resource of vision you have is champions, that is how things are going to unfold for you. JDG pick those up, and now they have Baron. Pick up this tier 2 on the top side, and you would really love to see them crack open the base. With this much power with buff, 2.5 minutes, they're going to take a reset now. And I imagine they will start to siege up through mid, through bot, and look to get as much damage done as possible.
Albeit a series of unfortunate events from the side of JDG, we pretty much expect the outcome to swing a certain way. I want to start getting ahead into, game 3 discussions of what Ultra Prime need to think about when they're not just, drafting compositionally wise, but how they're playing the map, how they're trying to match up into JDG, and some of the strengths that they're already showing a lot of reliance on in phase.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you, because I think JDG have been very creative in their lane assignments early on. They've been willing to lane swap or accept lane swap situations, but also, again, post that kind of initial level 1 setup, hold that fort.
Holy moly. Jung burning down, Ignite, finally takes him out. Junhao also forced out of the fight. Here comes the public execution over the wall. Good night, RosieLove. And there's only 3 members left standing from the side of Ultra Prime. There is still a Lilting Lullaby available. Junhao, no flash available. Saber forced to use the Fate Seal just to retreat back into the fountain, but Wako doesn't get to survive. Junhao and Saber are just begging for mercy, but JDG, there is no mercy in this house, as JDG will claim a 2nd game of the series.
2nd game of the series, 2-0. Little mishap in the mid game there through, frankly, determination through Ultra Prime to find that engage onto Pays. But otherwise, a mostly clean game, 70% of that game, pretty well played by JDG.
Yeah.
And they just kind of slumped through Ultra Prime by the end of it. Very, very decisive game overall, and I think JDG still showing intent, and especially as we were kind of starting to highlight before that game just very abruptly ended, around the macro, lane assignments, swaps, willingness to cross map, whether it be towers, objectives. JDG are really, really switched on right now, and I'm liking what I'm seeing, and this was also kind of a bit of an out there draft on top of all of that as well. So I'm happy to see that this is not the same JDG that we got out of the Multi Cup. Yes, it's only into Ultra Prime, but there is still a much more engaged version of JDG that we're seeing right now, comparatively to then. Of course, that was the only case study that we had to go off of, but it seems like the tales of JDG's potential demise can very much be surmised as a bit of a myth.
Yeah, or at least for the time being alleviated. Now, we definitely gave Ultra Prime a lot more credit after what they showed against Weibo Gaming to be a more formidable opponent than just someone we expected for JDG, regardless of their Demacia Cup performance, to just kind of roll over. And they're doing that. They're rolling them over. There's a couple moments that Ultra Prime, show a little fight in them and able to, get at least a couple decent punches back to show that they're just not completely getting destroyed. But this is the result that we were expecting when we just look at both rosters on paper and taking the Demacia Cup performance completely out of the rearview mirror and just looking at it blank slate day one. This is the JDG that everyone is excited for. And, you know, outside of the scope of just this group, you know, assuming this is their series to claim and they, you know, get out of groups alongside with more than likely Weibo Gaming, you look at the other powerhouses in the other groups, Jamada, like Anyone's Legend, BLG, Top Esports. You know, these are going to be the powerhouses that JDG with this new roster has to stand up to. And if they're being this proactive on the map, I'm very excited for those potential matchups.
Yeah, and you know, I think more than anything, this is some of the more proactive map play I think I've seen out of a team, right? Which is why I'm so excited about this roster, and I've been not singing their praises despite the Demacia Cup, but I've been trying to hype it up because I feel like there's a lot of attention on, you know, of course, things like the IG roster is very fun, right? There's a lot of other individual moves, like Tarzan over to AL and Kanavi to Top Esports. And there's a long list of roster moves which are fun to track. But this roster, I feel like, has not really been given the time of day by many, at the very least in the Western communities. I'm not sure how things have fallen, actually, now that I think about it in the Chinese communities in terms of how they feel about this JDG lineup. But again, with so much name power in the individuals, you know, with room to grow as well, I think is an important part for a lot of these players still.
Yeah.
I feel like you can only really get better as JDG here, and I must say that if we ignore the Demacia Cup, this is a pretty good floor to set overall, as we roll through some of the replays here. And this was that one fight, right, out of Ultra Prime, in fairness, where, again, if there's anything I can credit Ultra Prime for this game, is the consistency of the creativity of their engages.
Yeah.
But then, out of all of the engages that work, it is the most Route 1 forced play of them all.
The most smork way of getting it done.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it still doesn't get them the you know, position that they need in the game, because again, JDG just continued to execute on some of these fights just that inch better.
Yeah. I don't think there's any much there's not much I could really add, you know. Ultra Prime tried multiple times, right? And, you know, you can applaud that a lot of the things that we were excited about based on just the first two games against Weibo Gaming, they tried again, but, you know, sometimes it's just a hands diff, you know? The reaction timing of these small micro movements, it's like, well, guys, I don't think you can discredit Ultra Prime in the way they took some of these fights. Just sometimes you gotta be able to play faster or react faster, you know? And that's a lot easier said than done. But heading into Game 3, there are now 20 champions that have been removed from the table. There's a lot of possibility in terms of champion pool and creativity. And, you know, if you want to look to Ninjas in Pajamas for inspiration, there's so many pocket picks and niche champions out, you know, available. We have over 50, 60, 70 different champions available in this crazy game that we've been, you know, attached to for the past 15 years or so. You know, Ultra Prime, I think it's time to dig something up and start cooking. I don't know, you know, just straightforward is going to be the way.
Ultra Prime do not have that psychopath named Doimby in their mid lane, so
unlucky, man.
Unless, you know, well, who's surprised about? Who's surprised about the MVP here? You know, unless Saber has something really, really special in the locker, I don't think we're gonna get anything too far off the beaten path, unfortunately. As yeah, really, really good stuff by Pays. Again, it feels like a bit of a difficult game to talk about because of the nature of how a lot of these fights played out. Again, I feel like there was kind of one key win condition for both sides. For JDG, it was keep Pays alive. For Ultra Prime, it was murder Pays. And
yep.
Well, I think you kind of figure out how things went by the fact that Pays ended up getting it.
Yeah. You wait. Hey, they got the murder Pays part one time, and every other time was in JDG's favor. Fortunately, the numbers way out. But to to alleviate back to what we were talking about with JDG and Pays at the top of the show. You know how we talked about Pays? You got to lock the frick in, bro. You know, just put Demacia Cup, a thing of the past, and behind you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to announce that this is the official debut of Pays in the LPL, and he is delivering. There are no notes. I don't even care that the series is not over yet. I am this confident that Pays is delivering. And side note, if for some reason Pays now just runs it down, I'm so sorry for caster cursing you, but I don't think that is going to happen. I think Pays is going to deliver once again, and we're all going to go home early.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think look, as I kind of mentioned, and I spoke about coming in, Pays, look, they give him the correct kind of setup. Systematically, JDG I think have always looked best whenever they have like a crazy AD carry to really play around. Ruler, now Pays. It's always the Koreans, man. It's always the Koreans here for JDG. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about for this roster, and Pays is definitely one of those, one of the bigger people I feel like to be excited about for JDG here.
Yep. And for anyone also excited about Pays at home, don't worry, the series is not over yet. We still have at the very least one more game, since this is a best of 5. So when we come back from break, Game 3 draft will be on your screen.